Welcome to the Freedom Hustles podcast, where host John and Andy take you on a journey of liberation away from the 9-to-5 grind. Explore side hustles, remote work, and the skills to help you unlock true freedom. Brought to you by freedomskillsacademy.com, this podcast is your gateway to independence and financial empowerment.
Right then, episode 57. Welcome back. So tonight, first of all, I should just point out, those of you watching on YouTube, do apologise about the little sort of grainy. I've got a temporary laptop set up because
Can I see you?
We're having some renovations done in the office, so it's a very, very temporary workstation. But anyway, so yeah, irregardless of that, we will be cracking on, and we still do another podcast. So, like I say, episode 57, we're going again. We had some quite good feedback from an episode we done a while back, kind of going back to basics. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that again. And this one is basically called "How to Earn Your First $500 Online," or dollars or pounds, or whatever your insert chosen currency there. But yeah. So taking it right back, not necessarily like the more complex stuff. We'll probably touch a little bit on that at the end. But the idea on this one being, the traditional ways, if you like, of trading what we would consider, time for money, if you like, is one way of looking at it. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to start off, Andy, because I know you've done plenty of work, online over the years, with things like freelancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's one of the freelancing is one of the great ways of actually making money. I think one of the biggest problems most people have is the confidence of getting started. But generally, I mean, what I'm going to talk about now, where it'll stand in a few years' time with AI, because obviously a lot of people turn into AI and it is bypassing a lot of freelancers, but a lot of freelance work, or quick way to make £500, or your first £500 could be basically starting with writing or creating sort of logos. And because I'm sure I mentioned it before in the past, I've been very fortunate because I landed a job working for a company as a writer after being on their email list, and they sent out job applications, or because basically he believed that the best place to find people was on his list of customers. And so I got into the writing business that way. But I also wanted to do an experiment for myself. And so one day I decided to set up a profile on Fiverr, and this was an absolute brand new profile. I set up my first gig, and obviously I had no feedback, I had nothing. So I decided that I should obviously charge accordingly. I couldn't go in there and start charging ridiculous amounts like I can do, because I currently charge about £62.50 for sort of emails. I have written a couple of emails for a person before and charged £250. So you can get good money for writing if you sort of know what you're doing. But with this Fiverr profile, I set up a whole brand new profile account, set up a gig, and I got my first customer. Basically wanted to pay me $5. It was like 250 to 300 words. I think it was an Amazon description. And then it kind of snowballed, because I remember making around $100. It's probably actually more $100. It's probably about £100 within like a week, because I had people coming to me. And what happened is that the person who bought the first piece of writing, liked it so much, he sent me another one. And then I got a guy who was doing a website specifically for deliveries, like a UPS website. It was to do with parcels, and he wanted me to write certain bits about places where parcels were going, like countries. And I would have to write 300 words about this specific country. And I ended up doing a load for that, and then some more for a niche website around offices in London. And so I got this sort of, I only had like 2 or 3 customers basically coming back to me because of writing. And that was just from starting on Fiverr.com. And so that was the experiment. I just wanted to see what I could do with it. And if I'd carried on scaling it up, obviously I could have been, I'd have had a lot of customers. But And so to me, it was just I wanted to see if I could go on there and make money, and I did. And I'm going to tell you now that one of the articles that I wrote, I did it on my phone while I was sat on the loo, and it was just sort of penning it out, and it was that sort of simple. So that's one of those things where it's a great way to start making money. Anybody who is proficient in speaking English and can write to a point, who can write an email, then it's a great way of getting started. It's something that you can do from home. You can do it in a coffee shop. You don't necessarily need to speak to customers and clients, and you could quite easily make your first £500 or dollars from writing. But as I say, with AI, things are changing. But a lot of writers are now using AI as a tool to actually help them.
Yeah. So to kind of build out the sort of the kind of the basics of the structure, if you like, of the article, or get some ideas or some bullet points, and then the idea being that you go off and write the rest out. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think Fiverr and places like that gets a bit of stick, doesn't it? Fiverr does, but I mean, I like it. I use it all the time. I hire people on there all the time, and we've used people. In fact, we used people recently on that. The intro and the outro to this podcast was a freelancer we hired off that. So, there's loads and loads of absolutely tons of ways that you can earn money from freelancing on Fiverr. I used to do one, which is quite an interesting niche, which was Pinterest pins, because I grew quite a big Pinterest account years ago on my. It was one of the blogs that I was using, one of the blogs that I was doing and writing, and it ended up doing all right. And I would sort of rent out the boards. I'd pin sort of 15 pins for people, and things like that. And then, that took off and ended up, like you say, before you know it, you're making like, a couple of $100 a week, you know what I mean? Just doing that. So it was a bit, but I think to go back even one step further, probably, for the people that have got no kind of experience with regards to freelancing or anything like that, the age-old classic that we've talked about hundreds of times is, things like flipping, basic flipping stuff, buying stuff for one price and flipping it on for later on for profit. Now we've mentioned obviously things like websites, you can do that on domain names, and you can flip anything basically. You get it for the right price, and you are able to sell it on later on for a profit, then great. But I mean, even going back one step further than that, things like eBay, marketplaces like eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Vinted, I don't know what the other ones are, Gumtree in the UK. I think in America they got Craigslist, which is big. But anywhere like that, I mean, places like that, if you can go out, with a £20 note, $20, go to your flea markets, your thrift stores, your charity shops. I'll challenge anyone that you can. There's always stuff to be found that you can flip for profit. Certainly in the UK, charity shops are getting a bit harder now. They're getting a bit more wise to it. I think they've got a lot younger staff, and everyone just checks on eBay now. You don't get the obvious stuff that you used to be able to get. They priced it all up now, which I don't really understand. For me, that why they're trying to compete with eBay is beyond me. Because it's a charity shop, no one's going in there really specifically looking for that particular thing. Whereas when they go on eBay, they're shopping for that. They haven't got the kind of audience that eBay has. eBay's a multi-million-dollar audience, whereas a charity shop, the whole idea of a charity shop is, to go in there to people like to find a bargain, fair enough. But they've not paid anything for that cost. I know there's overheads now, and the UK government and everything like that, is ripping people apart. So I understand that.
I can't think of her name, but Mary Queen of Shops. She would be horrified because it was basically her. She did a documentary a few years back where she went to one of the charity shops, Oxfam, where it was, and she went in there, and it was her who started to boost up all the prices up because people were bringing in these sort of high end dresses in good quality, good
Design
condition
and stuff and all
and
that.
she was saying like, well, this is like worth sort of £500 brand new or something. You're selling it like for £2, and she was like,
Yeah.
sell it for a 10 or 20. And the volunteers behind the counters were saying, oh, but you can't. People come in here, they're looking for a bargain. She says, yeah, but you're a charity. You're raising money for a charity, so that you need to
Well,
get as much
yeah.
money as possible.
Mm.
So sell it at a more competitive price. So I think you've got her to thank for
Yeah,
basically
and that's
turning
fair
that.
enough. Like I say, I'm totally fine with that. If it goes to the charity, then it's absolutely fine. So that's one thing. So you can do that. The other option, which is in the UK, we've got car boot sales. Now they
Yeah.
are still a great place to source products. In actual fact, we are doing something very soon where I'm going to be showing again change how to go from a £20 up all the way up to 500 quid, and that will be. In fact, it's already been done. It will be released shortly on the website, depending on when you're listening to this. But there's a whole video package product coming soon, which basically shows me do that, and every single sale and every single flip will be in there.
It is impressive. I mean, I've
So
obviously,
once you've seen that and you then realise, what is potentially out there, then I'll challenge anyone. It comes down to ultimately whether you want to do it or not. That's really the only thing that's stopping people is whether you want to actually do it, because this takes a little bit of effort. This takes a bit of hustle. It takes a bit of grind. You got to get up. You got to get yourself out of bed. You got to get yourself down there. Okay, no one's going to do it for you. But if you need 500 quid, then spend an hour or 2 hours on a Sunday, and you will get that 500 quid. As simple as that. I mean, I think if you watch the package, the product when it comes out, you'll see exactly what I mean. So yeah, so that's that one, and then some other ones which again got a load of stick back in the day. I mean, I can remember when we first started writing about ways to make money online, surveys sites. Do you remember them? I mean, they used to get absolutely canned, didn't they?
yeah.
But I think I've sort of found one. I wouldn't say like I've found one. Sort of like this sort of great discovery. I'm definitely going to put a light on in a minute, by the way. But I'm sort of disappearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's like watching the film The Fog. You're suddenly starting getting into
Or
the
like Back to
background,
the
just
Future, where
disappearing.
I'm like slightly
Yeah.
disappearing. But anyway, there's I can't remember what I was talking about now. Oh, surveys. So there's a website called Prolific, which is really good. And again, I don't care what anyone says. You can make, I mean, I'd say a fairly comfortable 150 quid a month doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount, I don't do it, but I see them all the time. They pop up on my screen all the time. I just had one the other day, literally, I saw the other day, a minute ago before we logged on here, £4.70. Well, if you do one of them a day, there's
Yeah.
150 quid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
150 quid towards your 500. You're not going to sniff at that, are you?
No, I mean it's got to be. It's like the quality as well, isn't it? I mean, you've got those people who probably pay you like 50p for a survey. Some companies, obviously, like the higher end, probably would rather pay £5 to get a survey on their services. Find out what their customers want. It depends on what you say. So I saw it again the other day. Someone had shared that says, "Why is it you never see a Lamborghini being advertised on the television?" Because
Yeah.
the people who buy a Lamborghini aren't sitting around watching television. I mean,
No.
we're talking like the Diablos and type of things.
Yeah.
So there are
Daytime
certain
TV.
companies.
Can you imagine that? Daytime
Yeah,
TV next to the, whatever it is, the cash in your gold, or, the garbage adverts that for people that are sitting around doing nothing,
yeah.
advertising a Lamborghini.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it was, and it's a great idea, and it's like, yeah, high end people, high end companies who have really expensive probably products or services are probably likely to pay more for a better survey experience or for better research. So
Mm.
again, like you say, it depends on where you. Because I remember, I don't know did they do surveys at Swag Bugs, or
Yeah,
there was
that
a
was
few
that was the other one.
websites
Yeah,
back in the old days, and there were a pittance, weren't they?
yeah,
Which
waste
they
of
were
time.
fine
Yeah.
for certain people who, if you sat watching TV and it's just mindless sort of chatter
Yeah,
in the background, you can play on your phone. You know, if it pays for you a couple of coffees or a pizza each week or two,
yeah,
then so be it. But I mean, like I say, there's got to be a higher end out there or surveys, and I mean, yes, it is it is a way of making some extra income, and it's definitely not to be sniffed at when people need money in this day and age, and if it's the one thing they can do. But I am a big believer in trying to at least master a skill of something, especially an online digital skill, as we've mentioned before, for many reasons. But it's not just because you can actually do that as a service, but if there's a demand for people to know that, you can actually teach what you know and put it in a product. Again, we've said about that. I mean, it you know, again, it depends on what it is or whatever. But just recently, I've just spent over £3,000 for some training, and the training it's live coaching as well. But there are people who are sitting and just recording videos, and then the videos are put on a members area, and you access it. Now, let's say that you learned something. It could just be something as simple as using Aweber, writing emails, loading Aweber, blah, 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 and you just do a series of videos, and then you put it onto a website at £50, £100 purchase. It's sat there now. It's sat there waiting for people to buy it. And then if your efforts then is just a case of trying to get people to that website, and if you make a sale every now and again, that's £100 in your pocket, isn't it? It's because you've mastered that, and you're not sat around trying to do surveys at £5 per go.
No, I agree. Yeah, there definitely will be a progression once you get going. I think once you start this, there's going to be a natural progression to this. I think the people that start off doing surveys, which is fine, and I'm not knocking anyone that does it. Don't get me wrong, it's brilliant. I'm actually thinking about doing it just for a little challenge 1 month. I thought about this the other day. I was just gonna say, like, let's see, I'll just do an hour a day every day for a month, just to prove, almost like a proof. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There you go. There's £100. I was just thinking about it, but anyway, to people that do it, I've got no problem. Absolutely none. I mean, I listened to a podcast the other week, and there was a woman on there, and she was making a fortune from, I say a fortune. She was making very decent wage from Swag Bucks in America, and it was a lot to do with they were big on. It was more tailored around like user testing experiences, which they do on there. I don't know if they do that in this country, but it certainly was in theirs. So it's things like games, downloading apps, using them, then giving feedback on them, and there's loads of things like this. And but she was doing decent, like several, not like life changing amounts, but like several hundred sort of dollars a month, quite comfortably. Do you know what I mean? Every month.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you say, I mean, if you've got the time, if you're sat around in the evenings, then absolutely go for it. But I'm definitely the company that we run, the business, the Freedom Skills Academy, and everything like that. We're more tailored around certainly building kind of digital assets, as we like to call them, but it's it's got a lot more longevity towards it. And, as we've mentioned loads of times, once you've built that, and you've just mentioned it now, once you've built that product, if you like, that's it. It's done. You know what I mean? It's there forever to be sold, and we do get this. I mean, we've got a product on the website that we had a sale from the other day. That's probably been up there now 3 years.
Yeah.
Probably.
Going back to what you said about progression, what we were talking about earlier, and the product that we're about to launch shortly is exactly what we were talking about. You're sort of mastering a skill, and then you turn it into a digital asset. You challenged yourself, as you said, to turn £20 into 500 doing flipping.
Just flipping stuff.
You've had a play around with that for over the years. You've done quite well at it. You've learned which things flip well and this and the other. So now you've done that challenge. You recorded yourself doing that challenge, and that then has now become a packaged product, which goes onto the website. So that's part of the progression. So you started selling stuff that you were buying at eBay's and car boots, and now it's online.
Yeah,
or it will be next week.
Exactly.
Or so.
Likewise with yourself. Like you've transformed, your ability to write from a sort of blogging perspective. Like when we first met online, we were just bloggers. We were writing for ourselves, really, and but yours is kind of, you sort of honed in your craft now to kind of target things like, people that need copywriting doing, and people that need emails and newsletters and things like that done, and that's become, like a paid service. You know what I mean? In actual fact, we've actually done products around that as well. What you do, so
it's the
it
same with
sort of the full cycle, isn't it?
Same with the WordPress and the websites that we've built for
Yeah,
ourselves and the funnels
yeah,
and the sales letters. We've now got to the point where we've packaged them into templates, and we've also, we've done stuff for other people,
mm,
and we've created or in the middle of creating another product around building websites for certain customers.
yeah.
So I mean,
And
these
that
are all these, yeah.
and that is really what one of the things we like to kind of try and teach people or to get people to think about is, you know, what their passion is and what they could potentially teach. Your knowledge can be sold. Do you know what I mean? If you can basically package up your knowledge
Mm.
into a way that it can be monetized. There's no two ways about it. And
I mean,
you don't have to think about the kind of niche that we're in. It doesn't have to be internet digital marketing or,
no,
it doesn't have to be anything to do with this. It could be like, I don't know, mathematics, or it could be like, you know, Excel, or it could be art, it could be watercolors, it could be anything, music,
yeah.
anything like that.
There's a guy I wrote about. Was it last year or the year before? I wrote about him. I can't remember his name, but he was publishing massage videos to Udemy, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I was looking through his feedback and numbers and trying to calculate how much he was making from his sales. And I think he had his own website as well. And I'm sure he was turning about $1 million
Yeah.
a year
Absolutely.
from all these massage. Because I mean, you go to the Centre of Excellence website, which is I believe it was a UK. There's obviously a US version, but I mean they're publishing all kinds of products for things because there are people who are interested in Indian head massage, or there's massage, or there's even flower arranging. Like you said, these niches. Um, these are kind of the niches which pretty much like the Costa coffee or the 200 degrees coffee where they do like a barista course. People are just interested in learning how to make a cup of coffee, or people are interested in how to do an Indian massage. People are interested in how to
Mm,
flower arrange.
mm.
They're not looking at the make millions online course. They're not go, oh, I'm not going to pay 200, 500, £1,000 for that, but I am quite happy to pay 27 or 37 to learn how to do this
Yeah,
because it's what they're
exactly.
interested in.
Mm,
And so there is a huge market for those kinds of information, and there's multiple platforms now. I mean, I mentioned you can go to Udemy, you can go to Gumroad, you can set yourself up on Patreon. I mean, yes, we have to have traffic, and Udemy is probably a better place than Patreon, particularly for finding certain clients.
mm.
But there's a huge. I mean, I know of a guy who was making quite a lot of money teaching locksmiths how to get more work or how to
Yeah. Mm,
do. He had a membership website
mm,
based on locksmithing. I mean,
mm.
you would have never thought that there would have been
Right.
a people paying money to learn more about locksmithing, but he moved to Spain. Originally he lived in London. Then he was teaching other locksmiths what he did,
Yeah.
but he was doing it from online.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, classic one for me, like, because we're always kind of thinking this way. And again, I challenge anyone that listens and watches these podcasts, reads articles on the website, or, anything like that. Anyone, you need to start to think this way, that, basically anything that you know of that you're passionate about or that you can do can be monetized 100% online. Classic example is we're getting quite a bit of work done in our house at the moment. And, we've had quite a lot of tradesmen round and bits and bobs like that. So some of the jobs I'm thinking I could probably do myself, and some of them I'm definitely not going to do myself. So one of them, like I was looking on YouTube the other night on how to, the best way to do this. So we're having a little stud wall put up, and I thought, yeah, I could probably do that. So I was on YouTube having a look, and I watched this channel, and it was just like, you know, DIY basics or whatever,
Yeah.
and these guys, there was just a couple of young lads, and fair play, they were going out to do jobs anyway. So it wasn't like they were doing it for YouTube. So they were
Hmm.
going to the job. They were going to do that job anyway. So they're going to get paid for it anyway. And while they were there, they just set the camera up and then they'd talk about it as they were doing it, right? So they'd get
Yeah.
it done. Oh, this is why we're doing this. Right, this, and this is the tools we're using. Bang, and then they might speed it up a little bit, and then at the end they do a little recap video, and
Yeah.
even he even sat in the van at the end, and he goes, "This is how much I charge for this." Some of you are not going to like that, but this is what I charge. And he tells you everything, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that's brilliant. I looked at it, they had about 300,000 subscribers. Do you know what I mean? They're
As a
making
person,
money. They're making good money, right?
yeah.
Thousands a month from their ad revenue from their YouTube channel. And they're
Yeah.
doing that anyway. Do you know what I mean?
As a
Just sharing their
person,
knowledge out there.
as a person who used to work in the building trade, I can tell you I've thought about that many a times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many times I've been doing stuff just at home, and I've had the missus and the daughter both looking at me and saying, "How do you do that? How do you know to do that?" And it's like it's something that I did a lot of the time. I'd learned, and it was simple to me, but it
Yeah.
always sort of amazed them because how I could cut miters with my hand with the saw light and just be so accurate, and it was the things I used to do, and I used to think, I didn't particularly enjoy the job because I'd rather do what I'm doing now. But I often thought, I should just set up a camera and film myself. And that
Exactly.
brings me around to
Mm.
something else you just sort of said similar. There was a guy who, again, I can't remember his name. It's always the same. Can't remember if he was in the US or America, but he was, I think his dad either died. I think he probably actually left when he was a young lad. And so he set up, I believe it was either a YouTube channel, and it was teaching, and it was basically lessons. He was trying to teach other people, other youngsters, the lessons that he wished he'd been taught from his dad.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you learn cooking from your mum or your grandma, or your
Yeah.
dad
Yeah. Yeah.
teaches you to do this. So he was like doing lots of maintenance sort of jobs around the house and filming himself doing maintenance, the things that would be passed down from a father to a son, sort of thing. So
Mm.
he was doing that to sort of help those others who don't have fathers.
Oh, wow. It's a
And I,
brilliant
and I
idea, isn't it?
think that was his angle, and it's very, very much pretty much the same thing. I mean, you might even do
Yeah.
things like bills or
Yeah.
understanding insurance, because I mean, when you left school, you
Hacks
had to
and
deal with
crap like that. Yeah.
all that stuff. So
Mm.
he was doing this. He obviously had this website and probably doing YouTube, and it was like lessons from a father to a son, and that boomed for him as far as I'm aware. It blew up, and he was
Yeah, it's
doing
brilliant.
incredibly well out of that. Because you
Mm.
don't have to actually be a son without a dad to watch it.
No, you'd still learn from it anyway, yeah, like you say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one I use loads of is Excel. It's like the spreadsheet software, Microsoft. There's some brilliant, that's huge. Yeah,
Oh, there's
absolutely
a
huge. And bear in mind, back in the
yeah,
day, you used to get software and you'd get like a manual with it, right? When you were
yeah.
talking about, you used to get a physical box of software, and in that box would be a manual, often really thick, chunky manual, which would be, you know, all you need to know about it, and like as much, you read the manual, get going, you're all right. Now you don't get any of that. You download the software, and it's kind of like, right, let's go for it. Now, Excel is just one example, but there's loads of other ones now. Canva, right? Classic, basic graphical interface, right? There are people that make an absolute truckload of money just doing tutorials on Canva. Okay. So how to use it properly. And that's it. Do you know what I mean?
There's a woman who was making, I'm sure it was like $1 million a year, doing TikTok videos showing how to use, as you said, Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Just those Excel spreadsheets, and then she had either it was a course on Udemy or a course on a website,
Yeah.
but she was doing these short things, and then people were actually buying her in-depth training to learn
Exactly.
how to use Excel. I don't know if she branched out into other like Microsoft Office or Sheets or whatever the presentation and stuff like that, whether they are. I don't know if she did the others, but it was just focused on that one
Yeah.
software. So I mean, that's again, like I say, that's probably it's one of those things that most people will think, oh, I don't know what to do. But
Yeah.
yes, you might not get your first 500 straight away. You might not make money,
Mm.
this instance. But like you say, them joiners, those carpenters or whatever, those builders, they basically got themselves a tripod. They've got the mobile phone. They've probably bought
Mm.
an extra light. I mean, to be fair, if the plasterers or they've probably got big lights
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
they just set the tripod up and film themselves doing work, what they're doing anyway.
Yeah. They just,
And
all they do, they sort of pop in every now and again to the camera and go, right, this bit we're just doing now like this. And they just
yeah,
explain it for like, the videos only have to be like 10 minutes long. You're not talking about film the whole day on site. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? They just do little clips and they piece it all together. And at the end, they just do a little summary. It's almost like a time lapse. I watched a guy do a media wall and he just time lapsed the whole thing. And then he literally just sat in the van at the end and explained it all and explained the cost and what the materials and everything like that. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
he had like 100 odd thousand subscribers and he was doing really well. And you think, well, that's brilliant.
and
Because
that's
like you say,
the
that's about it's almost like repurposing in a way, because you go in there anyway, you're gonna do it anyway.
yeah.
You know.
I mean, that as we've talked about doing surveys, we've talked about flipping products,
Mm, mm.
mastering skills, and sort of like writing. But the thing, as you mentioned there, those guys are making money with AdSense or Google AdSense.
Yeah,
Now, you can't get into the partner program right off. You have to have like several thousand subscribers and was
yeah,
it 4,000 hours of
yeah.
video time? And there are people who teach you how to get that quicker. But the fact is, these people, yes, they've probably spent a couple of months or even whatever building it up. But once they've got there, they're actually getting paid through advertising. So they're not actually producing a service for anyone. They haven't
Mm.
got customers to work with. They
No.
haven't got they
Mm.
haven't got to go out and buy products and sell products, post
No.
package and all
Mhm.
that lot. They're creating something which is now earning them money through advertising.
Yeah,
And it becomes, I mean, there's people who've made an absolute fortune through YouTube and advertising, hasn't
yeah,
there?
absolutely. I mean, and the other thing, just closing thought, because we are sort of getting to the end now.
Yeah,
But on that note, you mentioned you do need I think it's 1,000 before you can start applying for the YouTube partner program, and 1,000 subscribers. But one thing you can do straight away from with 0 subscribers is you can put links and affiliate links in your videos. So those
yeah,
guys that are doing the DIY, for example, let's say the guy who's just done the media wall, he could have 0 subscribers, but he could do a video which could explode and get 50,000 views. And in the links, he could say, here's the LEDs that I used, here's the TV bracket that I used, here's the tools that I used. Amazon link, Amazon link, Amazon link. Yeah, they're all affiliate links. That video stays on YouTube forever. Okay, gets views for years and years and years to come. And if people go down there and buy some of them, oh, I really like them lights he used there. I wonder where he got them from. Oh, there they are. Brilliant. I'll just buy them here now. There you go. Do you know what I mean? And that can be done from
yeah.
0 subscribers.
My
Uh,
f- my final thought on that is actually, if you don't do the affiliate, you can do sponsored.
Yeah, that's the
I
other one.
mean, you've probably done a couple of videos, you've got a handful of subscribers. You know, it's going to be a long way before you can get into the partner program, but you can see traction starting. And if it was, say, if you did a video on making cakes or something like that, or whatever, you could probably approach a certain company and say, would
Mm.
you want to sponsor this video for whatever? And, just charge 50 to £100 and it stays there for how many years?
Yeah, that's
So,
right. Okay, yeah, well, I think we'll wrap it up there. So, yeah, some good stuff. I mean, obviously, we started off kind of on the entry level stuff, your eBay surveys, user testing, freelance work, and so on and so on. And then it kind of naturally progressed. The podcast progressed as your train of thought should as well, into how you can sort of monetize your knowledge, and then end up sort of creating digital assets, and so on and so forth, which we believe in the long run is a lot better way of doing it. We're not knocking the other methods at all, but you should definitely be sort of heading that way. Would you agree?
oh, absolutely. I mean, as we did mention, there's people prefer different things. Some people just want to prefer and fiddle with the phone while they're watching TV and do probably a survey. But basically, as you do progress and you learn more, you get to a point where you can actually start selling things more passively and at a better price, and that kind of gives you a freedom as itself, which is, to me, I'm sure, as for many people, is such a big help, and ultimately the most. It's the dream, isn't it, to earn some extra money to pay the bills without actually having to do a great deal.
Okay. Thanks very much for listening, and we shall see you on the next one.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Freedom Hustles podcast. We hope you found inspiration and insights to help fuel your journey towards freedom. Don't forget to join our free newsletter at freedomskillsacademy.com/newsletter, where you can find exclusive tips, updates, and resources to help elevate your hustle. Until next time, keep hustling towards your dreams.